John, can you hear me pretty good?
Yes, so let me go through a couple of more things real quickly. Welcome again to the AMATYC 2014 webinar series, Improving Math Redesigns with Instructional Strategies and Supplemental Support with Dr. Paul Nolting. And this presentation is sponsored by the Developmental Mathematics Committee of AMATYC. And AMATYC is the American Mathematical Association of two-year colleges, and our core value is building expertise and exhibiting leadership in the teaching and learning of mathematics, enhancing personal growth, and improving teaching methods and effectiveness as a personally initiated lifelong responsibility. And for more information, please visit our website at amatic.org. And please note that the views expressed by the presenter are not necessarily the views of AMATYC, and any commercial products mentioned by the presenters are not endorsed by AMATYC. And now we're going to turn it over to Dr. Paul Nolting. So if you want to welcome him in the chat room, that would be great. And I'll get his slides up here in a second. So again, welcome.
I guess that's my cue. So I'll always do a sound check and everything. Is that okay with you, John? Everything looks good?
Yes, it sounds just great.
Okay, good deal.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming to the webinar, and thank AMATYC for letting me be a presenter here. I'm looking at the list, and you're from everywhere. Montana. I've been to Helena. It was pretty nice. Cynthia, hello. I've been to Niceville too. And I can see a bunch of people I've worked with or in the past, maybe work with in the future. I'm just glad you're here, especially people out west, because that means you got up real early. And the people in the east, we're waking up. We had our coffee and our donuts, maybe, or other things too. So what we're going to do is make this very as interactive as possible. What I talked to John about is a bunch of questions coming in. He's going to field those questions. And then what's going to happen is he's going to break in every once in a while and ask me. It's easier for him to field the questions than to me to look at the chat and try to figure out what's going on. So what we're going to do is process this. Also, John, did you get them the handout, the webinar handout, and talk to them how to bring that up? I think that's happening now because this handout is for you. And it's basically some information I put down briefly about what the agenda is going to be, and also some information you can just copy and use later on. So we're going to look at is how to make students more successful, especially with different redesigns and looking at different strategies and supplemental support. What we're finding out is that a lot of the states, as you know, have mandated redesigns. Some of them are in their first year, some of them in their second year. And what we're finding is that some of them are working pretty well, some of them are working pretty well with some students, not other students. And what we have to look at is what is the best probability of success for our students in the long range. So what I'm going to do is go through the slides, and then if you have questions, like I said, send them to John, and then we can start looking at how to be more successful. We have about 26 people or so, so don't be afraid to ask questions. And I'm pretty sure as we go along, there'll be more people adding in. And if you look at my workshop agenda now, we're going to look at the variables to math success, which I always do, and the National Developmental Education Math Summit. As some of you know, we had that last year at AMATYC, and we're actually having another one this year. So this is my commercial break already. It's going to be Thursday morning, I think from about 9 to 11. And it's going to be a panel of the best people in the country. Carnegie people will be there. Yuri Treisman will be there. Representatives from MAA will be there. From NAID, Hunter Boland will be there from National Center of Developmental Ed. So if you have time, you can go to that. We're going to make it more of a participation this time, group interaction, and then actually at the end, we're going to break out the small groups, and after the panel discussion itself, you have an opportunity to go see different people and work with them individually. We're going to look at effective instructional strategies, and I'm going to go through what I've seen going on in different colleges and universities and trying to figure out what is. And there is no one effective instructional strategy for all our students. And I can tell you ahead of time right now what I'm looking for is what effective instructional strategy is best for what student and what type of student. We're going to look at some learning behaviors and study skill strategies because that's really picking up again. A lot of people kind of held off on that while they're doing the redesigns. Now I'm getting more calls saying I need some help with this area. Research on math study skills, we'll do a little bit of that. Strategies to integrate, how do you put it into the system? Some student study strategies, which I'm famous for developing and other people are using. And actually, how do you integrate this into the classroom? How do you integrate this into tests? And then we're going to go into what I call the enhanced supplemental support. A lot of people are going into what can we do with the Emporium models? What can we do with the modular systems to improve that? Those systems are good for some students and some students who have a little more difficulty. So as we go through, what we're going to talk about mainly is how to help students become more successful. And then what we're going to get into is how you can figure out what student can be successful at what type of system. And that's going to be research on your part, because part of it is not just the instruction from you, but what system is best for what student. So let's go to the next slide. This is my famous slide. Everybody's seen this if you worked with me. If not, this is the big picture. This is Benjamin Bloom's slide, basically. And as soon as a student walks into any type of classroom situation, 50% of their grade has been determined. That's this part up here, the cognitive entry skills and IQ. Now, in some states like Florida, what they have now is if you graduated from high school in 2003 on, you can actually go into college, not take a placement test, and take intermediate algebra, basic English 1101, which is beginning English. And if you know it or not, you can just get right into the class. So that becomes a big issue. I've been working with some states in Colorado where if they didn't score a 30 on the compass, they couldn't take a math class. They could actually get some help through labs, but that became an interesting issue because a lot of times if you just offer them help and no type of reward for it, they usually don't show up. So that's a big deal now of placement, math history, grades, disabilities, and all this. What we're looking at too is the quality of instruction and how do you teach. This is getting more important, and I mean really important, because a lot of students don't know how they learn best, and what we have to do is match it up. So the learning styles, I'm not saying really learning styles of the instructors as much, but the learning styles of the students. What learning style matches up best with what type of design we have? The traditional classroom is still out there, so what matches up with that? What matches up with modular systems? What matches up with accelerated? We'll get to all that too. The whole thing about the 24/7 web access, what it really means, everybody has access to everything. Now, there's a new app out, which is Take the Picture and Solve the Problem app. If anybody knows how to get that one I've heard about recently, but I don't know where to get it. And I have some other apps we're going to talk about, but if they can send in information who knows where that is, send it to John, and then we can share it with everybody else. Okay, tutor training, again, real quick. My famous saying about this is untrained tutors are just as good as no tutors. And what happens with the untrained tutors is that sometimes they call it worse. They get less success and less what's happening, what's going on. And there's some research that's saying that tutoring has a negative aspect of basically success. The redesign in traditional classrooms, who does well in traditional classrooms? In Florida, we don't have them anymore. The state has ruled that we cannot offer any type of 16-week developmental math classes. They all have to be at least 8 weeks and have to have 2 designs. The online classroom is still there. I have some students who do really well in that, some students that don't, but we'll talk about the instruction, how our instruction has to vary based on the course and also based on the student. The next thing is the affective characteristics I'm pointing to right now. This is the big area. What we're finding out is students have to become more independent learners in our systems, and also they need a plan. That's why I developed what I call my math success plan. I actually go ahead and develop plans for students, individual plans, mainly for repeaters. You know, if you're in the second time or third time. Unfortunately, we have people in there for the fifth, sixth, seventh, and 10th time. That's the same class now. Uh, we have to develop a plan for them. We're also looking at the anxiety issues again. That's popping up because as students go into different redesign courses, they're used to classroom environments of instruction where the instruction is there and it moves on like a classroom. Now we're not doing that in a lot of states. In some states, you really can't do that, or you have some limited options. So the anxiety is building up now with these students because they're in an environment they don't know about. So we start looking this. This up here is about 50% of the variance. This is up here is 25%. This over here is 25%. So if you look at correlation analysis, this is 0.7, 0.5, and 0.5. But this is the big picture. I'm going to move on to something else now and get an idea of what we're doing. Okay, when we start looking at the effective instructional designs, what I'm getting at is first the variables we just talked about. It's about 25% of the variance of the grade. The next one is how can you develop some type of match design where you can figure out what is the best type of learning characteristic for the best type of modular or Emporium model or any of our courses that are set up for accelerated. In other words, we're looking at now is what student does best in what system. And that's going to take some research. It's going to take some surveys. It's going to take some information. You know, are students doing better in who are repeating in modular systems, or is it an Emporium system, or is it accelerated system? And what you can see is all redesigns are successful with some students. I've been to colleges where the redesign has been very successful. Some colleges, which I can't name, that the redesign was a total disaster. What we're looking at is what works with what students, and that's your job, trying to figure that out, because we want to what we call hedge the bet. We want to put the student in the right one. Now let's start talking about different systems. The modularized system, that's been around forever, okay? And basically the modular system, which all of us know, but we always get confused with the Emporium model, is that students are basically tested, figured out what they're supposed to go into, and then start. The good part of this is we don't waste time in things they don't know. Another good part of this is they can go as fast as they want. And we've had students finish two classes, two courses, sometimes three courses in one semester. Of course, if we finish three courses in one semester, I call them misplaced. That's supposed to be a joke now because we shouldn't have put them in that first one. But anyway, when you look at the modular system, how does it work with your students? What's going on? What is the issues with the modular system? I got here, time management. Students think they have all the time, they don't. And that's also time management with the instructor. And the instructor thinks the students have more time, and they don't. And what they put off, and they put it off, and they wait, and they wait. It's almost like we got to constantly remind them what's going on, where are you, where should you be. Also, what I found out with modular systems, if you put them in the modular system, have them do the work independently, and don't pull them out, it doesn't work as well. I worked with one college in, I'll say South Florida, I'll leave it at that, and they actually did a modularized system by putting them in a classroom that was actually kind of in the lower level of the buildings. Very few windows, very few lights, didn't match it up with any other supplemental support, as I call it, and they called me back and said, they're just not working. The students don't like this. I said, yeah, I know, because you put them in the dungeon, so to speak. You got to give them access. You got to pull them out. You got to give them opportunity to do some group work. You have to time it, or I should say chime in with them and take them to the learning resource centers. So the modular systems can work with some students. If you have any students with ADHD, probably not a good idea. It doesn't work as good with those students. And some of your students that want more direct instruction, maybe not a good idea, but we don't know for sure. What you need to do is take some of the characteristics and look at this. Emporium models. This is very popular. And what I'm seeing is more and more classes in them. I worked with North Florida community, it's called North Florida College now, basically. And they had a great Emporium model. Efren, who ran it, is excellent. But what he does, he has many discussions right before each class. In other words, they bring him in. This is where you're supposed to be. He also had intermediate algebra and elementary algebra in the same room, and a lot of support staff walking around. I actually visited his place and watched what they were doing. And what I was seeing is that some students were taking notes on everything. Some students were taking notes on nothing. And what we found out is that both of those systems were bad. We also found out that trained staff worked really well. In other words, the staff walked around and asked them if they need help. Of course, they said no. So what the staff was trained to do is watch a few problems, see how many times they click the help button, and then help them. When I walked around, I found one student that had 15 pages of notes for one class period. And I'm not exaggerating. She just wrote everything down. I said, well, this is nice, but how do you use it afterwards? She says, oh, I don't. I said, let me teach you a note-taking system that's going to help. Because the deal in the note-taking system with the Emporium model is that if you hit the help button for the second time, you better write something down. Also with the Emporium model, I ask them, what do they leave with? And if they say nothing, then basically that's what I tell them they learn. There's nothing because they can't review for the test. Now, if they're making an A, I don't care. Okay, I just don't care. I care about them, but I don't care about their system. So this one is the support staff and the many discussions and how to go on. Also, what Efren did too, is that he had about 2/3 of the class in a study skills class that was actually right after it that he taught. So that kind of contaminated his results, which is very good, but it also shows something. Accelerated. Whoa, boy. Here's your math question of the day. You ready? Usually we have classes for 16 weeks. Now what happens if we go to 8 weeks? So how much faster does a, say, elementary algebra class, which is something like Algebra 2, go than a high school class? Okay, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. So how much faster? Somebody put some answers. So how much faster? You can look at it two ways. One is how much faster from a time point of view, and the fact that you're actually in these classes for 2 months. I mean, basically 2 months compared to 9 months, and how much faster does it go compared to hours? Ours are about 48 hours of class time, and actually maybe about 200 hours in the high schools. So how much faster they go? Anybody want to take a shot at that one? I'm going to move on and come back to it. I kind of know the answer already. You should too. I just use my number sense. Okay, that's accelerated. What happens with accelerated? You got to teach faster, better, quicker. Multimodality instruction, group work. Why you do group work in accelerated? Because they need a group outside of class. I'm not saying you need it inside the classroom. It's good because it's more multimodality, but you got to develop that group so they walk outside. And lab support, constantly have them go to the labs, constantly, because they get behind. It's not like they have a day or two to catch up. Okay, hybrid online. Whoa, time management, and I want to take it for a lot of reasons beside the fact that I need it. That's a weird statement, but what happens, I have students who take an online hybrid classes that are actually in the college and they just couldn't get the right time. They take it because they're fearful of math. I have a lot of people math phobic take it online. You can't answer me a question from the classroom, I don't freak out as much. That's dealing with online resources, independent study skills, and basically I have a survey that actually measures online readiness that we're using at Valencia College and actually gives them modules that help them. Contextualized learning, that's a new one. That's not much with math, but that would be if you're applying like a calculus course and a, say, physics class. It's more math applications and use it. I also throw learning skills in there because if you do the learning skills, you're more successful. The co-curricular is probably the most successful I've seen so far. In co-curricular, you actually have a math course tied with a study skills course. The most recent thing I've seen is they actually tie it with a tutor course. I have students in Florida now at one college, which I won't name. Basically, they sign up for a tutorial class for their English. They take regular English, I mean, they can just walk in with English if they're alive. And they actually can take a tutorial class that tutors them, not teaches them how to tutor, but teachers that actually tutors them in the class. And then what we're looking at now for you to do, and this is for after your meeting, okay? Get with people, get with your learning disabilities area, get with your veterans, get with your labs, and start doing research on what student is best for what type of design. That's what we want to do, and explain the designs to them. A lot of times, if a student gets an explanation of the type of design on the course, they pick it, they're more responsible and do better. That sort of thing. So right now, that's the instructional strategy parts. What can you do? How can you improve in instruction? What can you do to make it different? And what you're going to find out is the supplements. We'll get to those a little bit later on the key factors. Now, here we go with the affective characteristics. This is my baby, as I call it, because what I've seen with all these is that teaching students to become better learners is the key now, even more important now than in the past. In the classroom, when we did the regular classroom course, which some of you are doing, we could actually integrate study skills in there. And that's what I'm recommending you do. Now what we're doing is that if they're going twice as fast, they better be twice as fast learners. That's your accelerated model. If we're doing the Emporium or we're doing the modular, they better be better independent learners. So we're looking at it as different ways. This is quick research again, because some of you I know are research advocates and say, does he know what he's talking about? And I do. The first one is the Math Study Skills course I ran a long time ago. Wow, this is my dissertation. It took students who failed algebra 1 to 4 times, separate 1-hour course, done at midterm. Here's the trick now with these accelerated courses. You have to teach them the skills ahead of time. I work with another college in Florida who actually has 3-week study skill courses that they rotate throughout the semester. 3 weeks is pretty fast. It's 5 hours a week for 3 weeks basically, but it helps them become more successful. Also, the students who don't do well can automatically get one of these courses immediately before they fail the class. That is a main thing, how to get it done ahead of time. Also, Dana Center, you're in Triesman, they recommend a educational course, a psychology course to improve math success by teaching them study skills, learning strategies, and also working with them on productive persistence, which is the cognitive coined term, but they're in it too. Another article, Journal of Developmental Ed, recently said that what is the best 2 predictors? We already knew the first one, which was placement. The second one is study behaviors in math. Carnegie Foundation, like I mentioned earlier, says you got to make them have more productive persistence. We got to make them more successful. We got to teach them how to learn. We got to be coaches, not cheerleaders. And that's when I work with actually our advisors and counselors. I said, that's great to be a cheerleader. The cheerleader doesn't help the team win. The coach helps the team win by encouraging them and showing them the right way to do it. Here's a couple of colleges I mentioned. Most of these colleges, if you ever talk to me privately, I tell you who they are, but they don't want to be out in the public saying they had these bad pass rates before I worked with them. This college, we entered in intermediate algebra, we put math study skills in, went from 39% to 57% pass rate one semester. This one here was using a modular system, and we went from 23% pass rate to 6%, actually using instructional design techniques like I was describing in the classroom, and also study skills. And this is a recent master's thesis. If you want to let me know, I can't give it out generally to everybody because Lewis is trying to get this published in the Journal of Developmental Ed. He took a 8-week math study skills course at the University of Toledo, taught it, did an experimental design. The students who made A's and B's in the study skills course compared that to students who didn't take it, and the students who did make A's and B's had significantly higher pass rates in their elementary algebra class. When we did the National Math Summit last year, I think 5 of the 7 participants said one of the better things we have to do now is make students better learners. Okay, so I beat that one to death. Let's move on. Oh, more research. I'm going to kind of skip this one real quick. This is baseline design, no study skills, mandated study skills. Then the community college took it out. New president came in and mandated it again, and then took it out. Bizarre. Can't go into details on this one, but I know this one personally. Interesting. So that's a good design. Let's move to this one. Here's a deal that we found out, and we did this at AMATYC about 3 or 4 years ago. Took classes of students with only failures and students that basically has disabilities. Made into somewhat of a learning community in that you went from students went from pre-algebra to basic algebra to intermediate algebra, all with the same instructor, added quizzes, added lectures, added study skills, and you all know by now that the more times you take the same algebra course, the less chance you have to pass it. Research basically said, look at this. We moved them up. What you're going to find out is your lowest level math courses are the hardest ones to improve the success with. I did that for years. I said, this is not right. We should be able to do this. This is the lowest level math. Anybody can do this. What I found out is that students who made below a 30 in AccuPlacer did not have the prerequisite math skills no matter what we did with them. Students who made above a 30, actually students who made below a 30 had a 25% pass rate, which is awful. Students who made above a 30 had a 75% pass rate, which averages about 48. So the idea here is that lower level one, you got to watch it because it's hard to get that one going up. As you notice, as we go up the classes, the more successful we can. We're more successful in intermediate algebra than any of them. And that's unreal. And over here is the pass rates for repeaters. As you know, the first time you take a math course, you have about a 50% pass rate. The second time, about 33%. And the third time, about 25%. And after that, we can't pass the course. Another thing I'm going to tell you real quick, which I forgot to say earlier, which some of you know about, is that predicting success in math is pretty easy. I can walk in my math class the first day and pretty much tell you about 90% accuracy who's going to pass and who isn't. Bunch of surveys would be nice, math study skills, etc. But the main thing I'm looking at is this. If you're a repeater, you're high risk, period. So when you start doing designs for students, I would get the data sheets of every math student in your class. If you have Banner, we did that for years in Banner. PeopleSoft can do it too. I want the list of how many times you took the math class, where are you? The next one, if you made a C in the previous algebra class, and one college I worked with, they had 85% failure rate from elementary to intermediate algebra if they made a C. Now don't let them talk about the fact that if you see the grades, you're biased. That research was done 25 years ago, and the new research out it says we see the grades, we look at it as an early alert and we'll help them immediately. Now I'm going to talk about the design. So you got classroom and condensed, and I've used the Winning at Math book, which is mine, to help students become successful in that. And what we do is discuss at the beginning of the course. We practice a strategy in the classroom. The Emporium model, I use the same type of materials. Short discussions at the beginning of the lab, practice in the lab. And the easiest one is this. When I teach them strategies to be successful with using different type of online programs, which I can't mention the names, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. I'll teach them a note-taking system so that if they hit the help button twice, you got to take notes, and I'll show you that in a few minutes, so they can walk out with something to learn. Web, the same thing. We got to watch this web system. A lot of people like this, and I can tell you right now, every college I've worked with, their online web math courses have always had a lower pass rate. Average, that's an average now. Every college I've worked with, I've also had instructors who taught online classes that had a higher pass rate than the classroom ones. So it's all, a lot of times in design and everything else. So let's go on a little bit further on. When we start looking at study skills strategies to help them learn, it's, how we got to teach them the benefits of learning math. That's how learning math is different and why it pays off. We got to look at anxiety issues more and more. This is coming up. A lot of vets with PTSD that are coming in with test anxiety, and that's a whole different subject that I'll talk about maybe in another webinar, because those students are one of the best dedicated students I've ever worked with. The veterans are great. I have instructors that only want veterans, and they're the only ones they give excused absences to because they know they'll make up the work. Anxiety is still here. It's going to be more prevalent. Study environments. What is the study environment now? It ain't the dorm. It's not the library like we had. It's you walking around with your cell phone. There's a whole different thing here. Improving memory, that's a whole deal. Note-taking systems, reading systems, test taking. How do you take an online math test? That's the big deal now. Can you go back and answer the questions or not? That's the whole key to this thing. How to take control and motivation. Show them how to become successful. Show them how to become successful. That's what we got to do. Okay, moving on to this one. Here it is. I'm not going to go through all these, but basically, one of the first things I do in my math class is tell them how fast does math go, what's the difference in math, how is it different? How do you have to learn it different? And this is what we want them to understand. Math is a science that requires sequential skills. Students must demonstrate their knowledge. Math is like a sport, like a puzzle, like a foreign language. They got to practice it. And then what we do is I ask them how they like math. And I just tell them they can't cuss. No cuss words, nothing like that. And basically what happens is I get a bitch and moan session. I also have about 25% of the students who love math. They're just in lower level math classes and they still love it. I also found out that if I let them do the complaining and I don't jump on them, I'll go, yep, you may not use it. Of course, I know they will, but yeah, you may not use it. Why you got to take it? Because you got to graduate. Uh, what is the purpose for math? Make you a better student, be nice, but you got to graduate. Why do I need it? Because I'm in English. Got me. I'm gonna be a lawyer. Do I need math? I don't know. I'm this non-responsive. I used to be the Apostle Paul of math and preach to him. That sure didn't work. So what I did is said, okay, let me talk about it. Then I just asked him, how much money you want to make? He go, what do you mean? I said, how much money you want to make? Oh, I want to make $150,000 a year. And my joke is legally. Well, maybe in Colorado you can do that. No offense to Colorado people, okay? But maybe you can do that. But I'm going, they go $60,000 a year. I have when I'll show you this, and what John will do is get your email addresses, and basically I'll give you the chart. If you want to make $60,000 a year, you take an applied calc. They go, I don't want to take it. Okay, don't make the 60,000. Oh, the more math I take, the more money I make. Yes, that is true, except for math instructors. That's not a joke. That's true. Assessing strengths and weaknesses. Boy, what I do now is I used to ask them, did you study? Did you read the book? Did you come to class? How long did you study? How much homework did you do? Of course, about the third or fourth question, they already turned me off. They didn't come back to my office. If you don't want students to come to your office, be the prosecuting attorney. Talk to them. Eventually, I learned just to give them a survey. And what we look at is a couple of them. I have a learning modality survey for math, math study skills evaluation. In the book, I have a test anxiety inventory. I give them surveys and I find out what's going on. I actually make a profile sheet for the student as part of the study skills or homework assignments. And that does work because if they see where they have difficulty, if they see they have high test anxiety, they see that they have poor test taking skills, they see they have poor memory skills, they're more likely to do something about it. If you tell them this, go study more, learn more, work harder, that doesn't work. That's a cheerleader. Remember, we're coaches. We're going to teach them how to do the skill and show them how to do the skill and show them what they need. And I tell them this, like in any type of athletics or any type of musical instrument, if you're playing that, we assess you first and figure out your strengths and weaknesses and help you work on that. In your handout, there's a more detailed math study skills evaluation. Okay, it's a more detailed one than this one. But here's the good thing about the math study skills evaluation. I want you to fail. You heard me right. I want you to fail this thing. Because if you fail the math study skills evaluation, then we basically understand what you have difficulty with. It's your study skills. And I ask them, how many study skills were you taught in high school? Were you taught study skills in college? Most of them said I was taught study skills in college. It had nothing to do with math. I said, good, you made a 51. That's great. Should have made a 35. That means a lot of your study trouble is math, study skills, not math, cognitive skills. I got to make sure they understand it's not their cognitive ability, even though with some disability groups I work with, abstract reasoning is the #1 predictor of math success. And I do have some students who are at 3rd, 4th, 5th grade abstract reasoning and 125 to 130 IQ. Their verbal is off the chart, and we get those students to get stuck in elementary algebra. I get them out, put them in liberal arts topics or statistics. What we found out from statistics, and this is research you want to do if you want to do, we did a correlation analysis of acuplacer and statistics. The only thing that went into the equation that stuck, so to speak, is reading. Reading predicts statistics success. Math had no correlation with statistics success. English had a little bit, but it overlapped so much with reading. If you know statistics, you know what I'm talking about. The reading was it. But anyway, I'm off the subject. But this is the study skills. We get them to believe that the study skills, and I go, it's not your fault. I'm going to teach you how to become a better learner. And by becoming a better learner, be more successful in math. So we blame something they can change, which is the study skills. I can teach them the math behaviors. I can teach them study behaviors. I cannot fix their synapse in their head. And then they go, Oh, you mean I could probably learn it? Yeah, I gave them hope. Not only gave them hope, I gave them direction. Now, what type of directions are we going to talk about? Anxiety issues. Uh, it's still prevalent, hasn't gone away. Students still have a bunch of math anxiety. I can tell you where it started, third and fourth grade. I have students that still freak out during tests. I do take them and put them in a separate room the same amount of time, and about half of them do better and half of them don't. I do relaxation techniques in the classroom, tensing, relaxing, visual imagery, deep breathing. I like it because it breaks up the monotony, maybe wakes up the people a little bit. And I also know from math research and from educational research and psychology that the idea is that if you take a little break and come back, your learning goes up. So don't forget about doing this. Also have your advisors come in and counselors come in and talk about anxiety. Some people do it before the first test, some people do it after the first test, and make sure the last 10 minutes you are not in the classroom. Got that? You're not in the classroom because they're not going to ask questions with you there. And I actually tell the counselors to end 5 minutes earlier because then what happens is they actually come up individually and ask for help. So we got to deal with the anxiety issue. We can do workshops on anxiety. We can do all these type of things. You just got to admit that it exists. And the PTSD is coming in, and it's not just with vets. A lot of women who've been in car accidents, men being in car accidents, it's all there. And it does block the ability to learn. It blocks the working memory, as we call it. Note-taking systems. Oh my goodness, has this changed? In the old days, we taught you the Cornell system. New days, I have my own note-taking system called 7 note-taking systems. The new days, smartphones. Smartphones. Basically, smart voice recorders, Evernotes. I tell the students it's picture time. Y'all get up, take a picture of the board. I tell the tutors it's picture time. They all get up and take pictures. I have them record the lectures in some cases and actually sync it to the computers. Uh, this is great for people with short-term memories. It's great for your accelerated classes, and it's great for anybody. When we get into the note-taking systems, here's my famous one. You got key rules and properties over here, examples over here, explanations over here. I actually do this in the classroom. I actually will start off doing this examples, and then I'm telling them we're doing a note-taking system, and I'll put this on the board, and I'll ask them about the keywords, ask them about the explanations, and I'll do this for a week or so. Then I'll cut this one out. Then eventually I cut this one out and go back to what I was doing. That's scaffolding. That teaches them how to do it. I also give them some time after class to work on that. Let's move on. That's what I call the 3-column system, teaching the note-taking systems. It is very successful. It works very well. And this system, I'm going to flash back to it, can also be used with online instruction and in modular, mainly Emporium models when you're doing a lot of computer work, even though modular could be computer. This is the problem. If you missed it, this is the keywords, this is explanations, etc., etc. They got to walk out something with their hands. They got to have something in their hands to review. The note-taking system, again, the smartphones. Let's go ahead. Go ahead to this one. Go ahead to this one. Textbooks. Do you read the textbook? No. Do students buy textbooks? Not that much. Do students learn from textbooks? Yes. Oh boy, here we go. So how are you going to do it? Online text. Do you show them how to use the online text? You got to. They're not going to do it themselves. Well, not them. Some of them will. Most of them won't. You got to do it yourself. You got to work at that. You got to become more successful. But you got to teach them the resources they have but don't have. Oh, I see Barbara just had a question. Hey, Barbara. Alaska in California. Reading systems. Here it is. They're reading a foreign language. You got to teach them the vocabulary, put vocabulary problems on the test, help them become more successful, have them read the material, teach them how to read it. Actually, I have some people who have vocabulary lists in their lectures. They put them on the boards first. This is the vocabularies, monomial, binomial, polynomial, all that kind of stuff. Put it up there. This is a foreign language to them. They can understand that. And I teach them how to read the textbook. I teach them how to do the online materials. And as we're in the Emporium model, the students that we train go around and say, what are your notes? That's my big deal with tutoring. What are your notes? Let me see what you got. Don't have any? You better make some and I'll come back. What did you see on the programs? Did you go to the help sessions? Not help sessions. Well, you did go to help sessions, true. But did you go to the help areas? Did you go to the videos? Did you write that down? we're teaching them strategies right there. Homework learning systems. Oh boy. You know, how you can do your homework online, how you do it. Not online, we teach the systems to them. This is more success. The 10 steps of doing your math and classroom homework is unique in that the first thing I'm saying is you got to start. The second one is we want them to finish doing a problem they can do, which most often they do. But with our computer program systems, it's set up where if I click enough, I get them all right, and I walk out thinking I know it. Well, some people do. Some people don't. And what we're finding out is a lot of them are very overconfident. That is, the students, and they take the test and they get 50 and they blame you. Because you told them they did all the homework, you got it right, you should get an A in the class or a B. Of course, we don't say that anymore. I don't say that anymore because they can mimic it. Plus, I pull out an app, which I'll show you in a minute, that will do anything in a second. Okay? Oh, here they are. Yes, here they are. Practicing, practicing. The old practice is up here, the new practice. Wolfram, hey, practice. Calculator, practice. Lego, practice. Take a picture, practice. These are apps you can practice with. You need to show them how to use these apps and make them more successful using these apps and help them with the apps because they can always pull it up and practice no matter where they are except for driving. But don't let them do this while they're driving. That's not a good deal. But this is the whole deal too, is practice, practice, practice. When they walk out of the labs, a lot of times with the important model and the classroom models, they got it in short-term memory, a little bit in working memory, but they got to go practice it to get it from working memory to long-term memory to abstract reasoning so they can pull it out during the test. Prepare for test. We all do this. You know, teach them how to prepare for tests. The main thing I do now is a little bit different. You know, memorize vocabulary words, practice tests, that's great. Have them make up cheat sheets. Yep, some of you already heard me talk about this. The answer is yeah. I had them make up cheat sheets, make up group cheat sheets. I just tell them you can't use it during the test, but make it up. Man, one time when I was asked to step in for an instructor who was going off to a conference for reviewing for their pre-algebra class, and we had group cheat sheets. Then I had them put them all on the board. If I'm doing online, I have them list them all, but I had them put all their cheat sheet information on the board. I could look at that and I knew exactly what they didn't know. Then they wanted copies. We made copies. This is good stuff. What do you got to do to make up a cheat sheet? You got to figure out what you don't know. And then you can write it down. I used to say memory data dump. Some of you may not like the word cheat sheet. I understand that. Make up your own words. But I guarantee the students did. And boy, was I surprised when about 50% of the students told me they actually made these up and used them in high school. Okay. 10 steps for test taking. Most of you have seen this before. But we're looking at is that memory data dump is the cheat sheet. It doesn't matter if you're online or not. You can do that. Second memory data dump after you preview the test. Of course, when I tell them to preview the test, whoa, preview the test. What happens is online. Well, the question is, can you go back? Or you can't. We got to figure that out because that's a different test taking strategy. If you can't go back, then you got to go ahead and do the problem. If you can't do it, you got to work backwards, close your eyes, go off in space someplace, come back and put an answer down. If you can go back, then later on, you just skip it. Your brain's still working on it. You come back to it, and that works. The main thing we do, if you can go back, is have them answer a bunch of questions. As they preview the test, mark the ones they can do immediately and answer those immediately. Students who are successful in math basically answer 5 or 6 questions in a row correctly, and that's motivating. If I want to fail you, I put all the hard questions first, and I knew instructors who did that until I talked them out of it. They wanted to challenge the upper level students, and they sure did, but the rest of them left about 30 minutes into the test. Review all the test questions, and of course, how do you guess? Probability of guessing a math question correct, if it's not multiple choice, is 1 over infinity. Not good. But it's better than putting nothing down. I'll tell them that's 0. So the idea here, what you have to do is go ahead and have them write something down, at least rewrite the problem or something. Okay? Here we go. This is one of the best things you can do with tutorial areas for anything. It's misread direction errors, careless errors, concept errors, application errors, test procedure errors, study errors, and teach the final exam preparation type of things. This is it. You have to teach them, understand where they make their mistakes. On my tests, what I do the first couple tests to get them to do the memory data dump, I have a question that says, this is your memory data dump, write it down, you get 5 points. Later on, I give them 5 points for doing this, redoing their test, analyzing it. You can do the whole class at one time, excuse me, and go through everything with them. How many points here? Missed a direction, careless errors, I just forgot, I dropped a sign. Yeah, concept errors, no idea what the heck I'm doing. Application errors, can't do word problems, can't do graphing. Test procedure errors, I got stuck on one problem. My goodness, I got it right. I spent 20 minutes on it, failed the test, got the problem right. Or study errors, the procedure errors is I review from the top, but most of my questions are at the bottom. I should review from 20 up. Study errors, I crammed. Now watch out with this one. I have some students that cram who do quite well in math. And you're thinking, that could be you. Okay, can't be, that could be you. And just don't tell them you did it. With students cramming now, I ask them if they're successful. If they are, I don't say anything. If they're not, I tell them they're doing a bad thing. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. This motivation thing here is something that we're getting into more and more now with repeaters. Also, we're getting into it where a lot of colleges or states like Florida, third time you take the class, out-of-state tuition. Other states, I was working with one recently, which I will not mention. If you can take it 2 times. If you don't, you're done with math, totally. That really affects your career. So, fear of failure, fear of success. But this math success plan, now this is actually in your handout. And what that is having them taking the math study skills evaluation, looking at their strategies and techniques, and have them do a plan. How many times you can go to the lab? How many times are you going to go with the instructor? What study skills are you going to improve on? What motivational aspects are you going to give to yourself? How are you going to motivate yourself? This is the key for your repeating students. You got to give them something to go by and help them. Now, I'm going to go to something else real quick here. Supplemental support. Got this for a few minutes, and then we're going to probably take some questions. What I'm seeing is this is growing. I was at the Florida Developmental Education Conference a couple of weeks ago at St. Pete College, and I was so happy when the VP said we're expanding our Learning Resource Center because we know the students need more help. In fact, we want to make it where it's for everybody and not be stigmatized as only for developmental students. We know there's gaps in the curriculum, and this is where we're going to be successful. Boy, that was powerful. And I'm preaching that. I'm preaching looking at how to get other resources out there. Real quick, train tutors in effective tutoring strategies and learning skills. You got to train them. Untrained tutors, like I said earlier, just as good as no tutors. Can't do that. Most of us have heard about supplemental instruction. You can have that for your classes. It is pretty, if you're very conservative on this, then you may get the better students in there in the upper level classes. It does work, but you got to look at the end. How many people do you affect? You can affect quite a few. Peer-led team learning is a little more popular now. I worked with Miami-Dade College on this one, if anybody's from Miami-Dade. Basically similar to the SI, but the peer-led one is a little bit different. We actually give them points to go to the peer-led sessions. We also work with the instructors to do that. We also have them make up tests. We also teach them study skills. And if they have to basically go, they can only miss a few of them, otherwise we kick them out. They're actually using it with their STEM program. And it shows success because we mandate they come in, we work with them, we give them tests, give them quizzes during that time. And like I said earlier with John, I have some resources. A guy named David Ardendale has wrote about almost every one of these. In fact, the next one is his. Peer assistance learning. I use this at my college. A little bit different from SI. We have the instructor or the student in one of the classes and meeting with an instructor, not in the class the student's in. So we may have it for elementary algebra or intermediate. The student gets with a instructor or the lead instructor for that area and then helps students with problems. Both of these, SI, peer assistance learning and peer-led learning, it's not a tutorial session. They're basically being led by peers and making the students do the work and only chiming in every once in a while. The Emporium model, what I'm seeing this with modular system, you train the tutors and put them in the classroom, put them in the model, put them in the system. Like I said, North Florida College is doing this one. They walk around. They're very intrusive. They ask about what's happening, what's not happening, what are you going to do, where are you, how you're studying. And also in that model, you're actually taking the test right there in the classroom. And we teach them some memory data dump techniques before they take it and work with them. That is very successful. The more hands-on, we actually did pull-outs there, pulling them out, doing some manipulatives, that sort of thing. Academic coaches, this is replacing the tutors. And I don't even call them tutors anymore, except to make people understand what they're doing. Tutors are in the past. We want academic coaches, combination of tutoring and study skill strategies itself. I'm working with other colleges on doing this. Someone out in Colorado, Front Range, I'm working with them on how to do tutoring and studying. I've been out there and training their faculty and students, and that's what we want. We want the students to teach the other students how to study. For example, the first thing we do before we get ready to tutor the student is, where are your notes? And they pull them out. Their notes are awful. We teach them a note-taking system. You know, how did you do on your tests? I freaked out. I'm going to teach you a relaxation system. Then I'm going to work with you on your tutoring. That's it. Student mentors, this is a little bit different. I worked with New Jersey City University on this one. They have mentors that actually team up with a lot of developmental students, students repeating, students low GPAs. And the mentors are basically, they're for appointments. And I see I did a spelling error here on this one, but they actually make appointments with the students. They motivate them, and they also teach them learning strategies, how to adjust with the college, how to cope with the college, and then they report back. This is another thing that's coming up. We got a college, like I said, in Florida, offers a tutor course. Actually offering the course, students pay for to get tutoring. What I've done in the past is actually had a tutor training course where we actually gave them a fee waiver. I trained the students. It's a 3-hour course. It was a co-op course. They actually gave me 9 hours a week tutoring for free. You got that? For free. They took the course for free because we give them fee waivers. They weren't working for that much per hour, if you can figure that out real quick, okay? And we put them in mainly with repeaters. We sprinkle them in the learning resource centers, and also we had a center at one time I ran was only for students who got kicked out of the other centers or had disabilities or were repeaters, and that was very intensive. So what I'm getting at is you can do some of these tutor training courses even after we made it. We left the fee waiver away. We took it away. We still had people in. I think the maximum one time I had 10 people in there. Look at that, 10 people, 90 hours a week of free tutoring. And part of the course was training them. We also staffed them. And I'm going to talk about that real quick as we go through some questions. Oh, that's me and my beautiful wife.
Oh yes,
Okay.
Paul, I was going to give you your 5-minute warning right now, but there was a question from Crystal about, have you done any research on this to see if it's more effective for student learning than a traditional approach like in a flipped classroom? So is there anything out there about the flipped methods?
Yeah, there's information out about the flipped classroom, but here's the issue so far with the flipped classroom. We haven't had enough of those run long enough to get research on see how effective it is. That's what I can say. I know about the research or other ones. The flipped classroom, if you look at it, means that the students actually learn a lot before they come in. Well, that's good, but we got to teach them how to become better learners to learn the material before they come to class, and then in class we teach it a little bit differently and go over the information. And answer more questions. So that's good. So what I'll be doing, if I'm that person, Crystal, I ought to be doing the research on the flipped classrooms, pass rates. Remember what pass rates are? A, B's, and C's. Don't count the W's, D's, and F's, that sort of thing, and compare it to the other classes than C. But then you got to dig a little deeper and figure out for what student is the flipped classroom the best? For what student is the empowering model the best? That's what my major point is today. Because we got to get the research out to give it to the advisors and counselors, because we want the students to pick the best and the highest probability of success when they pick their classes. And that also gets into scheduling and describing the classes. So I don't have any research on the flipped classrooms, but I hear that they're doing quite well. But if you can do that and share it with AMATYC, that would be great. So I think now it's question and answer time. But the tutor training class, don't be afraid to do that. You know, Get a class up, and if you want that information, I'll give you the syllabus. And I saw a few more questions, but I'm going to let John ask the questions. Otherwise, I'll go off on a tangent. Okay, what was the answer to the question I did with the math question? How much faster does math go with an accelerated course? Who got it? What do you think? 4 times, 5 times? That's about right. So if the class is going that fast, one, students don't know that. Time-wise, going, 4 to 5 times faster than anything. But students must know that. Okay? So I'm waiting for a few more questions if they want to bring it into John. Okay, I'm going to sum up a few things, and I'm going to hang on for a few more minutes and answer some questions. Here's what we're looking at now. Math redesign. If you are going to AMATYC, please go to the second National Math Summit. I know Bob Orlowski's already kind of said go to it. Of course, you helped with it last time. And if you were with that, or with us, we will have the mentors there again, the mentor groups, I should say, and we'll help you. But you need to do the research. You need to team up with everybody to figure out what is the best designs. We know that study skills does work. How do you integrate it? We know that a lot of these designs work well with certain population groups. What are they? And the question about the flipped classroom was really good because it leads us right back into what design is best. What we do know that doesn't work, and Yuri Treisen and I have been talking about this for years, there's no silver bullet. There's no one way to help everybody. David Arndale did his book on it too, and it's no way. Like with Florida, we're mandated to have 2 different ways because we know, or more. We offer more ways, help the students, take a counselor to lunch, take a disability service person to lunch, talk to them, team up. And last thing, for those repeating students that you have, and if they're in your classroom, I've had people say they're taking the class for the 7th time, the 5th time, and they like me. Wish they would take somebody else, but that's what I get too. You got to staff these students. Get with disability services. They have disability. It's okay to call them up and ask them about that. Get with the Learning Resource Center and say, have this person been camping out? And get a staff. When I was at the Front Range Community College, we actually did a workshop on how to staff. We actually had a real student not there, but we had the files on the student. We sat there and said, okay, are they motivated? How's their classroom work? What are their previous grades? What disability do they have? How's it affect? What can we help them with? Do we have a plan for them? And us, the committee, kind of, like I said, modeled what we do with the students. Then we assigned, that time, John, who was the math instructor, to the student. And that John became the mentor. You can't do that with all students. With the repeaters, you got to. Because what we know is the repeaters are dragging down your success rates. And I'm not being mean, it's just a fact. If we get the repeaters to be just as successful as the first timers, your success rate can jump from 45% to 55 or 60% immediately, just by helping the repeaters. I mean, that is for sure. So like I said, team up, start staffing these people, start helping them become successful, give them hope. And the other flip of the coin too is this. I've had students I've worked with that were called flatliners. They weren't dead. That's a joke. They weren't dead. But when we look at their test scores, they were 3rd grade math, English, and reading, and how they got in. With the college, they got in easy because if you're alive, you can get in. But they were not there for success. They were there for social, or their parents wanted them there. That's the council issue. And if that's true, then we got to know that too. So we got to help them move up or move on somewhere.
Okay,
And
well, thanks again, Paul. And if you all wouldn't mind just thanking Paul in the chat room today for this wonderful presentation, that would be great. And thanks again to all of you for participating in today's AMATYC webinar. And if you'd like to support future AMATYC webinars, please consider becoming a member of AMATYC at bit.ly/join-AMATYC. And please remember to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMATYC. And recordings of past AMATYC webinars can be found at bit.ly/AMATYC-webinars. And I will try to get this webinar recording up as soon as possible, and it should be there before the AMATYC conference in about 2 weeks from now. And then if you wouldn't mind, please taking 2 minutes to evaluate the webinar content and the presenter at bit.ly/AMATYC27. That would be great, and you can click right on that link. And if you need an email confirmation of your participation in this webinar, please fill in the optional section at the end of the evaluation. And I'm going to try to get those certificates out as soon as possible, and definitely before the conference. So if all of you are coming to a conference, I hope to see you, and I know that Paul will be there as well, so hopefully both of us will see you there. And if you need anything, please send me an email, and I'll try to do what I can. So, are there any other questions
Well, one last thing.
that you would like to ask?
Everybody can make it. What I'm saying is everybody can make a difference. And if you have any questions, you have my email address too, and I'll answer them. But I have to thank John for doing this. He didn't tell you, but he has a little bit of laryngitis, and he did excellent. And without him, I couldn't process all this stuff. Okay.
Yes, I do have a little bit of laryngitis. I'm sure that some of you who have been in past webinars can tell my voice is a little bit rough today, but I will definitely be better in a couple of weeks. Alright, well, the handout link is still on the screen. If you weren't able to get it, just please send me an email or let me know. And if the survey isn't working, let me know that as well. Oh, thank you, Crystal. And then I can make the email address a little bit larger here also. Okay, so I'm going to give everyone a few more minutes to ask questions if you would like, but I'm going to end the recording right now though.